3 veteran lighthouse keepers vanished from a rock in the North Atlantic and left behind an overturned chair, an uneaten meal, and a log entry describing a catastrophic storm. On a day the official weather records show was completely calm. Welcome to Untold Lores, 3 Men and a Light at the Edge of the World, Part 1 of 4. In December 1900, 3 experienced lighthouse keepers were stationed at the Flannan Isles lighthouse on Isle Mar, a remote rock 7 miles off the coast of the Outer Hebrides in Scotland. The lighthouse had only been operational for 1 year. It was considered one of the most isolated postings in the entire British lighthouse system. The 3 men assigned to the station were James Ducat, aged 43, the principal keeper, a veteran of decades of lighthouse service. Thomas Marshall, the second assistant keeper, was 39 years old and had extensive experience on difficult postings. The third man was Donald MacArthur, a supernumerary keeper who had been brought in as a temporary replacement while the regular assistant keeper was on leave. These were not inexperienced men. They were professionals selected specifically for their reliability and composure under the extreme conditions that a posting like Isle Mar demanded. The island itself is a flat, top basalt rock rising roughly 150 feet above the sea. There is no harbor. Access depended entirely on weather. The lighthouse stood at the island's highest point, white and solid, visible for 24 miles on a clear night. Supply ships arrived at intervals, but between visits the keepers were entirely cut off from the mainland. No telegraph, no radio. Only the light itself, turning through the dark, signaling that men were present and the station was functioning. The last confirmed contact with the Flannan Isles lighthouse was a routine log entry dated December 15, 1900. After that date, the light went dark. On December 26, 1900, the supply vessel Hesperus arrived at Isle Mar under the command of Captain James Harvey. The relief keeper Joseph Moore was rowed ashore. He found the gate to the compound closed but unlatched. The entrance door was also closed. He knocked. No one answered. He entered the lighthouse. Inside, the kitchen table held a meal that had been partially prepared but never eaten. A chair was overturned near the table. The clock on the wall had stopped. The beds had been slept in. The oil lamps had been trimmed and were ready to be lit. Everything in the lighthouse was in order. Except that there were no men. Moore went back to the Hesperus and reported to Captain Harvey. Harvey recorded the situation in his official log. He wrote that the island appeared to be entirely deserted. A search party came ashore and made a full inspection of the island. They found no bodies, no sign of struggle, no indication of where the 3 keepers had gone. The only irregularity found outside was at the western landing, where a rope had been left coiled on a gantry crane at a height well above the normal storage position. One of the iron railings protecting the path from the cliff edge had been bent inward by some significant force. A large stone block, estimated to weigh over a ton, had been moved from its original position near the path. All 3 of these details were recorded in the official inspection report. Joseph Moore later stated that he had never in his life felt anything like what he felt on that island. He did not elaborate further in his official statement. Robert Muirhead, the Northern Lighthouse Board superintendent who had personally known all 3 missing men, reached the island and conducted his own thorough inspection. Muirhead noted that the last log entry made by Thomas Marshall, dated December 15, described severe weather and expressed that the men had been shaken by the storm's violence. Marshall wrote that waves had been striking the western landing with a force he had never witnessed before. He described Ducat as having been quiet all day. He described MacArthur as having been weeping. Robert Muirhead, who had known James Ducat for years and described him in the report as one of the most composed and steady men he had ever known, could offer no explanation for why Ducat would have been subdued or distressed by weather alone. Then Muirhead checked the mainland meteorological records for December 15, 1900. According to those records, December 15 had been a calm day. There had been no storm. The log described a storm so violent it made hardened men weep. But the mainland weather records show December 15 was a perfectly calm day. Someone had written about a storm that never happened. That's it for part 1. Follow Untold Lores for part 2. Like and subscribe for daily stories.